Welcome back to the Two Casual MMA podcast, the podcast for the casuals from Two Casuals. And we're back with a couple of mini podcasts. And I thought to myself this week that we're going to go with a little bit of a series rather than one mini podcast and really break it down from 5 through to 1. I absolutely love a countdown if you guys didn't know already. So what I'm going to do, a little bit of a countdown this week, a little bit of a series. The greatest UFC knockouts of all time. Now, you got to remember that I have been a fan of this sport since 2015. And you're going to get up me and you're probably going to say, oh, such a casual list. Such a casual list. Well, you know what? Being in the sport since 2015, Conor McGregor bringing me into the sport, hands up, I'm an absolute casual if that's the case. But I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be fun to count down from 5 through to 1. Give my own little breakdown on some thoughts that I had leading up to the event, thoughts I had after the event, and so on and so forth. But I want to kick things off. The number 5 greatest UFC knockout that I've ever seen in my time since 2015. And it's ironic that this one starts at number 5 because the knockout was 5 seconds. I'm talking about Jorge Gamebred Masvidal versus Ben Askren. Now, leading up to this fight, Ben Askren had come into the sport, not into the sport, but he'd come into the promotion in the UFC, and he was making headwaves, just saying, I'm going to be the next champ. There's nothing anybody can do to work out my wrestling. Once I get a hold of people, it's all over. And in his UFC debut against Robbie Lawler, I still remember that he got absolutely pulverized right at the start, and I thought, this bloke's talking nonsense. Who is this guy? He's walked out like he's had about 2 Big Mac meals, not an ounce of muscle on the bloke, curly hair, he just looks like an absolute goofball. I thought, is this bloke the real deal or what? And he was getting absolutely punished by Robbie, and it was the most bizarre end to a fight I've seen, and it was one of the most bizarre submissions, a bulldog choke. What the hell even is that? I don't think we've seen a bulldog choke since. But nonetheless, he got the win against Robbie Lawler. Controversial, if you will. Herb Dean stopping the fight when Robbie Lawler might not have been out. Having said that, the arm went limp. Anyway, carries on. As you all know, Dana White, what have you got for me, baby? What do you got for me? Well, up next, we got Jorge Gamebred Masvidal, and the lead up to the fight was pretty cool. Jorge not giving him an ounce of credit for being a mixed martial artist. Ben saying, if I get a hold of you, it's all she wrote. Now, leading up to this fight, it's very interesting. I was of the notion that if Ben gets a hold of Jorge, I think it's game over. I don't think there's anything that Jorge can do to pretty well defend the wrestling. Anyway, the funniest story, this is all time. This is absolutely all time. I swear to God, I would not lie to all of you listeners out there. Anybody that watches this channel, I would never lie. But would you believe that I was watching this fight, this Jorge Masvidal Ben Askren fight? I didn't know that it was about to be one of the most iconic UFC knockouts of all time. And the fucking projector, the power went out as Jorge landed the flying knee. Would you actually believe that shit? Well, true story. Went over to a buddy of mine's house, got a UFC cinema room, which is really epic, and it's never played up ever before. Never ever. But you know what? Of all the days to play up, let's play up on one of the most iconic moments in UFC history. So what happened was, Jorge's leaning across the cage, jabbing with his hands across his back, funky looking like he's ate 3 Big Mac meals these days, and literally ripped the wig off of Ronald McDonald and stuck it on his head, looking like a goofball that he looked like. And then Herb Dean goes, boom, boomski. No joke. After that, the projector shit itself. It absolutely shit itself for 10 seconds. For 10 seconds, it shat itself. You would not read about it. Seriously. And when the projector came to life, all you hear was Rogan going, oh! And I thought to myself, no fucking way. No fucking way have we missed this. And I thought at that point in time, I was like, there's only one option. There's only one thing that's happened. and that's Jorge's KO'd him stiff. And the screen came to, and that was all she wrote. The shit thing is, we're like, it just, for me and a buddy of mine who, both of us diehard UFC fans, whilst we still got to see it, we got to rewind it and play, it just wasn't the same as like encapsulating it live. Like, I feel like we've missed out on a really big opportunity here, but nonetheless, because it's the fastest knockout in UFC history, 5 seconds, when is there going to be another time that, I guess, anything comes close to that? I think this is as iconic as a knockout gets. I don't think it'll ever be broken in regards to all-time UFC knockouts. Do I think that Jorge overstepped the line after the knockout? Maybe a little, but at the same time, Ben was talking a lot of shit too. Jorge being from the streets, I think it's pretty Jorge-esque to do something like that. And obviously since then, it pretty well just catapulted Jorge Masvidal to the stratosphere, which he's still reaping the benefits of today, considering he has the game bred fighting, and he's still doing boxing events like coming up against Nate Diaz and whatever. So that moment was iconic for many, many reasons. It catapulted one of UFC's all-time great characters, Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. It is the fastest knockout in UFC history, and it is very, very fitting that it is number 5 on my list, being that the fight was 5 seconds long. And yeah, it just is. It is one of the most iconic moments in UFC history, not let alone knockouts. It deserves a place in my top 5. And if it wasn't for that fucking projector, seriously, I would have really got to enjoy it. But it's all good. Nonetheless, we carried on. We had a good time watching it. And the rest is history. I've probably watched it about 75 different times since. But that is part 5 of my UFC knockouts all-time list. Tomorrow, we've got number 4. The day after, we have number 3. The day after, we have number 2, which is going to finish in what I believe is the greatest knockout in UFC history. If you like what you see here, gang, like, subscribe, do whatever you got to do, because this train is always going to keep on rolling. Until tomorrow, when I discuss the 4th greatest UFC knockout in history, or in a casuals history since 2015. Thank you, Conor McGregor. Stay cool, casuals.